My own psychic awakening began when I was a teenager and was triggered by an episode of a show called Star Trek Voyager. On this show, there was a character named Kess who could communicate telepathically and sense things beyond the physical senses. The idea of telepathy intrigued me so much that I began to wonder about our own potential as human beings. Within that week, I had my first major psychic experience, and it changed everything. One day, I went into the kitchen for a snack, and as I walked towards the fridge, I had this sudden flash of memory. It was a memory of a fire at the stove and along the cabinets. The funny thing is that this memory was of an event that never actually happened. I also heard this voice in my mind. It was a voice that sounded exactly like my own, but way more subtle. It posed a question. The question was, what would I do if this fire actually happened? Without even questioning why I was experiencing this at all, I just began to wonder what I would do if there was such a fire in the kitchen. I came up with this plan of action and I rehearsed it daily for about a week. No, really, for absolutely no reason at all, I would just walk back and forth into the kitchen and practice this crazy plan of mine. Several days later, I was at home alone, my mom was at work, and I decided to make myself some breakfast. When I was finished, I checked the stovetop to make sure it was off. At that time, we had a hand-me-down from an uncle. The burners were electric, and even though you turn the knob to off, it wouldn't always switch off. You'd still have to put your hand over the burner just to make sure. After I was sure the burners were no longer giving off any heat, I proceeded to my room to eat my food. The fire alarm was still blaring, but I wasn't worried about it. That always happened when we made anything in the kitchen. Some nut thought it was a good idea to install one above the stove. I reached my room and began eating my breakfast. A few moments later, that voice, the same one I heard 1 week prior, popped back into my head. It said, "Fernando, go to the kitchen." I thought I was just being OCD, so I completely ignored it. Second time, "Fernando, go to the kitchen." This time, it was louder and more persistent. I argued with myself because logically, I didn't see the need to get my lazy butt up and walk all the way over there. By the third time, it got so loud, I definitely took notice. I just stopped arguing with it and decided to go ahead and listen and get up and go to the kitchen. When I got close to the kitchen door, I could see smoke billowing out. I freaked out, and I freaked out. I started to run, and when I got to the entranceway, there it was. Exactly what I had seen the week prior in my imagination. My fear and panic began to kick in, and I was in total shock. When these kinds of things happen to us, in that moment, your brain just turns to dirt, and what do you do? After a few seconds of brainstorming, my thoughts came together and I knew exactly what to do. I had been practicing for this all week, so I knew exactly what to do. Just like I had trained, I took a deep breath, ran up to the kitchen sink, pulled out the hose, sprayed out the fire with water, and ran out the back door. To this day, I really do believe that the vision I had of the fire 1 week prior saved my life. This experience shook me to my core, and I realized in that moment that we humans didn't realize the power we possessed.